I've worked security at places that would make most people quit by lunch. Condemned apartment complexes with squatters who moved like shadows. Shuttered factories where the machines seemed to breathe at night. A meat processing plant where the freezers hummed songs I still hear when I'm falling asleep. None of that prepared me for Waverly Hills. The listing showed up on a job board I'd been scraping for weeks. Overnight security, Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Louisville, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The pay was aggressive, almost insulting. Really the kind of money that makes you wonder what they're not telling you. But my landlord had stopped accepting excuses, and my car had started making a noise that sounded expensive. I knew the place by reputation. Everyone in Kentucky does. The old tuberculosis hospital up on the hill. 5 floors of Gothic architecture and bad history. Thousands of patients died there back when TB meant a slow suffocation and the best medicine was fresh air and prayer. They'd turned it into a tourist attraction now. Ghost tours, paranormal investigations, that kind of thing. But the tours ended at midnight, and someone had to watch the building until morning. That someone, apparently, was me. The hiring manager was a woman named Mrs. Callahan. Late 50s, practical haircut, the kind of tired that comes from explaining the same thing to too many people. She met me in the gravel parking lot at 9:45 on my first night, the sanatorium looming behind her like a ship run aground on the hilltop. I'd seen pictures online, but pictures don't capture scale. Waverly Hills is massive, over 180,000 square feet of corridors and wards and rooms that used to hold the dying. The windows stared down at us, black and empty. Some were boarded, some weren't. I couldn't decide which was worse. "You've done overnight work before?" Mrs. Callahan asked, not really asking. "Plenty." "Good. This building has quirks. Old wiring, settling foundation, sounds that don't mean anything." She handed me a flashlight, a radio, and a ring of keys heavy enough to anchor a boat. "Your job is to walk the floors, check the doors, make sure nobody's broken in or stayed behind after tours. Simple. Sounds simple." She looked at me the way teachers look at students who haven't done the reading. There are protocols. Specific ones? Previous security staff developed them over the years. Some people think they're superstition. Those people don't last. She pulled a folded paper from her jacket pocket, creased and worn, like it had been photocopied too many times. "Read this. Memorize it. Follow it exactly." I unfolded it under the parking lot lights. Block letters across the top. Waverly Hills Sanatorium Night Security Protocols. Complete your first patrol of all 5 floors by 11:30 p.m. Do not begin your second patrol until after midnight. The building needs time to settle after the tours leave. If you hear footsteps above you on the 5th floor, do not investigate. There is no 6th floor. Wait until the footsteps stop, then continue your patrol. The body chute is locked for a reason. Do not enter it. Do not shine your flashlight down it. If you hear movement from inside, walk away and do not look back until you've reached the main stairwell. Room 502 on the 5th floor must be checked visually from the doorway only. Do not cross the threshold. If the window is open, do not close it. If you see a figure near the window, leave immediately and do not return to the 5th floor for 1 hour. Between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., you may hear a woman singing from the old nursery on the 4th floor. This is normal. Do not attempt to locate the source. Do not sing along. The electroshock therapy room on the 3rd floor has a functioning light switch. Do not use it. If the lights turn on by themselves, exit the room, but do not run. Running attracts attention. If your radio produces static for more than 30 seconds, turn it off and proceed to the security office on the 1st floor. Wait there until the static stops, even if it takes an hour. Shadows in the hallways will sometimes move against the light. This is a trick of the architecture. Do not acknowledge them. Do not speak to them. They are not there if you don't confirm they are. If you find a door open that you locked, do not assume you forgot. Lock it again and note the room number. If the same door opens 3 times in one night, do not lock it again. Leave it open until morning. At 4:44 a.m. exactly, stand still wherever you are. Do not move, speak, or breathe loudly until 4:45. Something passes through the building at this time. It is not looking for you unless you make yourself known. At the bottom, handwritten in faded ink, the building remembers. Don't give it new memories. I looked up at Mrs. Callahan. Is this serious? Do I look like I'm joking? She didn't. She looked like someone who'd had this conversation before and was tired of the part where people didn't believe her. Previous guy laughed too, she said. He made it 3 nights. The one before him, 5. The one before that, she shrugged. We don't talk about him. What happened to them? They quit. Or they didn't follow the protocols. She checked her watch. I'm leaving. Tours ended an hour ago. Buildings should be empty except for you. Radio's channel 6 if you need the main office, but nobody's there until 7. She walked to her car without looking back. I stood in the parking lot, the paper in my hand, a sanatorium breathing above me. Then I went inside. The 1st floor was administrative offices, a gift shop, the security station with its ancient monitors and logbook. The air smelled like dust and cleaning solution and something older underneath. Something organic that the chemicals couldn't quite cover. I started my patrol at 10:20. 1st floor clear. 2nd floor, the old cafeteria and recreation rooms clear, but unsettling. The recreation room still had a piano in the corner, keys yellowed and silent. 3rd floor. Patient wards. Rows of rooms with iron bed frames and peeling paint. Some rooms had messages scratched into the walls. Names, dates, prayers. The electroshock therapy room was at the end of the east wing. The light switch was right there by the door, an old toggle switch that begged to be flipped. I kept my hands at my sides and moved on. 4th floor. More wards. The old nursery at the south end, where they'd kept the children. Tiny beds. A rocking chair facing the window. The silence here felt different, heavier, expectant. 5th floor. The solarium, where they'd wheeled patients out onto the roof for fresh air treatment. Room 502 was near the stairwell. I stood in the doorway and looked inside. Empty. Window closed. Just a small room with a rusted bed frame and a view of the Kentucky hills. I checked it off my list and headed back down. Patrol 1 complete. Time 11:17 p.m. I sat in the security office and waited for midnight. The second patrol was when things started to slip. I was on the 3rd floor, passing the electroshock room, when I heard it, footsteps above me. Distinct, rhythmic, someone walking the 5th floor corridor with purpose. My hand went to my radio before I remembered Rule 2. If you hear footsteps above you on the 5th floor, do not investigate. There is no 6th floor. I stood frozen in the hallway, flashlight beam trembling slightly. The footsteps continued heel to toe, traversing the length of the building above me. Then they stopped. I waited another minute. Then I continued my patrol, my heart doing something complicated in my chest. On the 4th floor, I passed the nursery. The rocking chair had moved. It was facing the door, now instead of the window. I was certain, absolutely certain, it had been facing the window. Rule 8. Shadows in the hallways will sometimes move against the light. Do not acknowledge them. The rule didn't say anything about furniture. I kept walking. At 1:47 a.m., I found my first open door. Room 312. I had locked it on my first patrol. I was meticulous about the locks, checking each one twice. Now it stood open. The darkness inside somehow deeper than the darkness of the hallway. I locked it again, noted it in the logbook. At 2:23 a.m., I found it open again, locked it, noted it. At 2:58 a.m., I found it open a third time. If the same door opens 3 times in one night, do not lock it again. Leave it open until morning. I left it open. Something about walking away from that gaping doorway felt like failure, like surrender. At 2:04 a.m., I was on the 4th floor when the singing started. A woman's voice, soft and melodic, drifting from the direction of the old nursery. A lullaby, I think. The melody was familiar, in the way dreams are familiar. You recognize the shape without remembering the source. Between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., you may hear a woman singing from the old nursery. Do not attempt to locate the source. Do not sing along. I stood in the corridor and let the sound wash over me. My mouth wanted to form the words. Some deep child part of my brain wanted to sing along, to join the melody, to be part of whatever moment this was. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted copper. The singing stopped at 2:51 a.m. I checked my watch obsessively, counting down the minutes. The body chute. I'd been avoiding it. The entrance was on the 1st floor, a heavy door with 3 separate locks. Beyond it, a 500-foot tunnel sloped down the hillside, the path they'd used to transport bodies away from the hospital without the other patients seeing. Thousands of corpses had traveled that passage. The math was nauseating. At 3:15 a.m., I was passing the entrance when I heard something from inside. Not footsteps, something else. A wet, dragging sound, like a body being pulled down the concrete slope. Do not shine your flashlight down it. If you hear movement from inside, walk away and do not look back until you've reached the main stairwell. I walked, brisk but not running. The sound continued behind me. Drag, pause, getting neither closer nor farther. Just present, just there. I didn't look back until I hit the stairwell. When I finally turned around, the corridor was empty. The body chute door was closed, all 3 locks still in place. But there was something on the floor in front of it. A wet handprint, fresh, glistening in my flashlight beam. I climbed to the 2nd floor and didn't come back down until dawn. 4:40 a.m. I was on the 3rd floor, completing my patrol, when I remembered the time rule. I checked my watch obsessively as the minutes crawled. 4:43, 4:44. I stopped exactly where I was, middle of the East Wing corridor, between 2 patient rooms, and went still. Do not move, speak, or breathe loudly until 4:45. Something passes through the building at this time. For 60 seconds, I became a statue. I controlled my breathing until it was almost nothing. My flashlight beam pointed at the floor, motionless. At first, nothing happened. Then the temperature dropped. Not gradually, suddenly, like stepping into a freezer. My breath fogged in the beam of my flashlight, and something walked past the intersection ahead of me. I saw it in my peripheral vision. A shape, wrong proportions, too tall, too thin, limbs too long. It moved without sound, gliding through the corridor perpendicular to mine. It didn't look at me. I didn't look at it. At 4:45, the temperature normalized. I checked my watch 3 times to make sure, then continued walking on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. I made it to 6 a.m. Mrs. Callahan was waiting in the parking lot when I walked out, sunrise turning the sky orange behind the sanatorium. She looked at me with something like surprise. You followed the protocols. I followed the protocols. Most people don't make it through the first night without breaking at least one. I almost sang along, I admitted, the lullaby. On the 4th floor, she nodded slowly. That's the one that gets most people. Something about it feels safe, welcoming. She took the keys from my hand. It isn't. What happens if you sing along? The singing never stops, follows you home, gets into your head until you can't remember any other song. She pocketed the keys. We had a guard 3 years ago who hummed 2 bars. He's in a facility now, can't stop singing. Even in his sleep, I thought about the copper taste still lingering in my mouth. I'll be back tomorrow night. You sure? I wasn't. But my rent was due, and something about surviving had made me want to survive again. I worked at Waverly Hills for 4 months. I learned the rhythms of the building. The singing was Tuesdays and Thursdays, always. The footsteps on the 5th floor were random, but more frequent during full moons. Room 312 opened itself every single night without fail. I stopped locking it after the first week. I saw the thing at 4:44 a.m. 6 more times. Never directly. Always in my peripheral vision. It never looked at me, and I never looked at it. We had an understanding. I quit in November when I found a day job that paid almost as much. My last night, I walked the floors one final time, saying goodbye to the rooms and corridors that had become strange, terrible friends. In room 502, I stopped at the doorway, as always. But this time, the window was open. Cold air poured in, and standing near the window, looking out at the hills, a woman, white dress, dark hair. She didn't turn around. If you see a figure near the window, leave immediately. I left. I didn't return to the 5th floor. I waited out my shift in the security office, watching the monitors show empty hallways that didn't feel empty. I have a normal job now. Warehouse security. Climate controlled. No history. But sometimes at 4:44 a.m., I wake up and go completely still. I control my breathing. I don't move until 4:45. Old habits. Last week, I was humming in the shower and stopped mid-note because I recognized the melody. A lullaby. Soft, familiar. I don't know where I learned it. I'm trying very hard not to remember.